Mark, let's start with backstory. I love finding out from founders what life was like before they even started their company. So what were you up to? What were you doing before you launched Garage Floors for Less?
Yes, I have quite the path to where I am today, but I was born and raised on a farm, so I took that, got into the car business where I really cut my teeth into how to talk to people and how to close deals. And then I stepped into the corporate world where I acquired a lot of marketing and digital skills that really, I think, has been a platform for what we're doing today. And then one day I was playing golf with a buddy of mine, and he said, "Hey, I need help with my coding business." And I'm like, "I don't know codings, but I'm pretty good with sales and marketing." I said, "Let me give you a hand." And it exploded sort of overnight. And I created the name Garage Floors for Less because there was a perception that this was a luxury item for the home. And the name became basically a sales driver. It was a sales funnel from the start. And here we are today now with 21 locations.
All right. Well, let's stick with before we started franchising. So you started the company right in 2019. What inspired you to get into the garage beautification business?
Yeah, so my father was a general contractor, and I've always enjoyed the transformation aspect that my father was delivering for homeowners. And I remember seeing homeowners being so happy and thrilled for whether it be new windows and new roof. And when we started exploring this garage beautification business, I saw that same reaction. Customers were happy, they were thrilled, they were, on a different level. And that just gave me a big sense of pride. And I just latched onto that, and that's been sort of a driving force.
Okay. Was entrepreneurship encouraged as a child growing up?
Well, I guess, yeah. I mean, getting stuff done was encouraged. On the farm, and my father being a general contractor, there was always work to do. On the farm, you're always fixing things, and as a general contractor, you're staying busy. You're delivering what you're supposed to do, which is fixing homes, renovating homes, and building additions. So that's always been in my blood, and now it's
Right.
just formalizing into what I do today.
Nice. Okay, so before we get into the franchising side of the business, I'd love to hear about what life was like when you first started the company and you were
Hmm.
running it, and what were things like back then?
Yeah, I mean, to be honest, it was a rough start. When I first started, I started with my golf buddy who turned out to be actually a very bad partner. So that dissolved fairly quickly. I tried again with another partner and that dissolved fairly quickly. It was really difficult. I was mostly focused on sales and marketing, and my partners were focused on the install. And then at some point, I just rebooted. I said, you know what? I was having coffee with a buddy of mine, and he said, "Mark, just do the work yourself." And I'm like, that's such a great idea. So I did that, and I rebooted the company. My first hire was now our chief marketing officer today. And we started for the first couple of years. We did everything ourselves, and we learned the process, and we failed and failed and failed until we got it right.
Yeah, that's great. I say it's great because there's a big, misperception when people meet somebody who is successful, such as yourself. They think you were an overnight success and you had it easy and you had an in, and it doesn't sound like any of that was true.
No, no, there was a lot of pain. I'm not going to get into it, but there's a lot of pain at the beginning. I went through some very, some hardships for sure, because you're trying to figure stuff out, and then you have some other setbacks when you're trying to partner with people. It's very difficult,
Of
but
course.
but I think that was needed because it created an amazing product today.
Yeah. Was there a pivotal moment when you knew this company had great potential when you're just running it before you start franchising it?
I think it's on the sales side where I remember booking like 8 appointments on a Saturday, and I closed 6 of them on a Saturday. It was like right there, customers were just, give me my money. They were like, I'm in. I want the service. You're presenting yourself well. It was validation right there in one day that
Mhm.
said, I think this really works. And then that sort of laid the path to our growth.
What about inspirations in running the business? You mentioned your buddy who you had coffee with that said, "Why don't you just do this yourself?" Along the way, I mean, entrepreneurship can be lonely. I know I went through this myself. Were there any mentors or people that inspired you along the way that kind of gave you the encouragement to keep going?
Yeah, I think earlier on was my father's thoughts because he passed away, but my close friends were a good support system. But early on, what I did reach out to other founders, and I did reach out to other business owners. I joined the Chamber of Commerce, and I connected with other entrepreneurs. And I think that's been sort of a big help. I'm very good at connecting with other people. And I think that's been a pivotal thing for me.
That's fantastic. Look, the home services is exploded, right? Post-COVID has been an incredible industry, arguably probably the fastest growing sector in franchising, arguably since COVID. What do you think your business model in particular that you think is really unique and scalable compared to others that are in your industry?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and that's a good point. We are in a saturated market. The garage beautification segment is not new. However, what we've done is we've actually combined commercial opportunities with residential. So we're the first franchise garage beautification system to incorporate polished concrete and concrete repair at a high scale in the commercial space.
Okay, and before we go too far down the road here, I think we should probably share with the audience what exactly you guys do besides the epoxy floors, because we keep talking about we're in the garage beautification business. So share with us like everything that you guys offer. What are some of the most popular services?
Yeah, and just to also add a bit more context, we also manufacture some of our products. So the resins themselves, the coatings, we manufacture ourselves. We have a chemist on staff and we control the quality. It's proprietary and it's advanced coating, technology. But the other things that we do is we do slat wall or wall organization. We do cabinets, which we are also manufacturing as well. And we do overhead racking. So everything that encompasses the garage, except for the garage door, we cater to.
Okay. What was the motivation behind getting a proprietary blend for your flooring?
So the motivation there, that's we could have a podcast on that alone. It's so when I first started, I was doing the coatings like everybody else. I was buying from a wholesaler and I was doing the coatings. And then there was, the year after, customers were calling me and saying, "Hey, Mark, we love you, but can you come and fix this peeling or fix this bubbling?" And this was a repetitive nature where I did the math, and almost 60% of coatings in our industry fail because of moisture in the concrete and poor adhesion. So I partnered with a chemist to solve this problem. And that's what we did. We took an industrial grade product that's only used in mining shafts and in tunnels, and we reverse engineered it for residential. And it's a system that doesn't peel. It's permanent.
How did you even know where to go to get this done?
Well, I first started off with a different solution because I saw that, you could seal concrete, and sealing concrete is a big industry.
Sure.
But there were some issues with that. As we tried it, there was an issue between our coatings and our sealer, and they weren't really working well together. And I went to the chemist, and we sat down, and we said, "Listen, there's got to be some technologies that we can use to solve this problem." And the first pushback was, "Well, that's very expensive. We only use it in industrial spaces and airport runways and mining shafts." And I'm like, "There's got to be a way." So we pushed and pushed, and we spent a lot of time in the lab, and we came up with a solution that works.
Before we get to your franchise story, I got one last thing for you as we talk sort of about the early days. If you can go back to the beginning and do something all over, what's maybe one thing you would do differently?
I would probably get on the tools faster. Instead of trying to build the whole empire out of the gate. I would probably go on the tools and learn it and breathe it for a couple of years, like I eventually did, and that would have probably gotten me 2 years further.
What do you mean ahead. What do you mean on the tools? Expand on that.
Really, like getting into how to do it. How does concrete work, and how does this machine work, and how do these products work, and how to present it to a customer, rather than being all sales and marketing and here's the beautiful pictures and how to make it work, to how it really works and what are the real challenges of the industry.
I guess looking back, it would have been really hard to have anticipated that, starting out, right?
Yeah, I was banking on some partners that didn't work out. So, it's really a blessing in disguise. I was actually forced to go and do it.
Absolutely. Okay. And then, so what led you to franchising? How did this one day pop into your head like, hey, I think we're going to franchise this?
Yes. 3 years into it, we're rocking and rolling. We have subcontractors and we have our own employees. And some of these subcontractors approached us and said, "Listen, we would love to have this type of business ourselves. We're tired of being a subcontractor." And that's how franchising was born. It was born out of an ask.
Thank you for tuning into the Emerging Franchise Brands podcast. For additional insights, guest applications, and to stay connected, visit us at efbpodcast.com. The
The Emerging Franchise Brands podcast is for entertainment purposes only, and the views expressed do not necessarily represent those of Emerging Franchise Brands, its host Frank Fumey, or Emerging Franchise Group LLC. Any discussed franchise or investment opportunity requires thorough investigation, obtaining proper disclosure documents, and expert consultation before making any investment decisions. The podcast and its host do not offer professional advice or endorsements, and they hold no responsibility for actions, representations, accuracy, or consequential damages related to the podcast content.